Hello again. In this video we're going to look at the correct techniques for rigging and slinging. This is a very important aspect of load management and crane operations. Knowing the different types of rigging and slinging equipment, when to use them and how to use them, is critical to safe operations on the rig. Rigging and slinging of the loads is carried out by the roustabouts under the supervision of the crane operator. Ultimately, it is the crane operator's responsibility to ensure that the load is correctly slung and fastened to the crane hook. If the load is not correctly slung and fastened, the lifting operation must be stopped and the load correctly reslung before starting to lift. So that means no sleeping on the job, lazy bones. Tom, wake up and pay attention. Once you start operating cranes, you'll develop a sense for the weight of different loads, and that'll help you a lot. But you shouldn't rely only on your instincts. There's a lot more that goes into load management and preparation. We'll look at selecting the right lifting gear, how to inspect your slings, and some of the lifting arrangements that you will be using. Your supervisor will know the weight of loads you'll be lifting, and if the load is part of a shipment, the manifest will document the size and weight of each load to be lifted and any other special instructions to be observed. Knowing what lifting gear to use on what job is a vital part of rigging and slinging. This means knowing the safe working load of the sling, shackle, bridle, or any other piece of equipment you'll be using. You can find the safe working load stamped on most pieces of equipment. If you can't find the stamp, you should look in the lifting gear register, where all the equipment is logged by an ID number. This sling, for example, has the safe working load stamped into the ferrule. This is a basic wire rope sling. At each end there's a loop called the eye. These are bound by ferrules, and the section in between is called the standing part. It can be used on a wide variety of jobs. This is a factory-made sling, and it is tested and certified by the manufacturer. The use of homemade slings like this is completely forbidden on Sedco 4X rigs. The sling can be made into a hitch, as you can see here. This has a sort of noose effect that tightens around the load as you lift. You should be aware that this type of sling can be easily damaged if incorrectly used. This sling has had the eye strengthened by the addition of an eye splice or thimble. This is a choker sling with an open sliding hook. These were once used for slinging loads of tubulars, but they are now forbidden on all Sedco 4X rigs. This slinging arrangement must not be used. We'll look at the way you attach slings to loads in more detail later in this video, along with other lifting gear you're going to need. There are some simple laws of physics to remember when attaching loads with slings. All slings are rated on what's called a straight pull. That is, with the sling vertically above the load. The more the sling moves from this angle, the less its capacity for lifting. Watch how the tension increases as the angle between the slings increases. On a 1,000-pound load, the slings are straight up, so each sling has a 500-pound load. If the angle is increased to 45 degrees, the tension on each sling increases to 707 pounds. At 60 degrees, the load on each sling doubles to 1,000 pounds. Therefore, a 1,000-pound load being lifted on 2 slings at 60 degrees will require that each sling is rated at a minimum of 1,000 pounds. At angles greater than 60 degrees, the load on the slings will increase dramatically. For this reason, you should never use an angle between slings greater than 60 degrees. You will know if the angle is greater than 60 degrees because the slings will start to ride out of the hook, as you see here. To avoid having a large sling angle, you should use longer slings. Choosing the right sling for the job is very important. Never cut corners or try and save time by using a sling because it happens to be close by. Make absolutely sure that the sling is correctly rated for the job. We've already talked about the safe working load of slings, and a good rigger will always stay within those limits. but that doesn't stop slings getting damaged or corroded, and this may significantly reduce their strength. No sling is going to last forever, but there are several things that you can do to keep them in good condition. Make sure your slings are stored correctly. Don't leave your slings lying around on the deck where they may be exposed to the elements. They will corrode very rapidly. They will also be exposed to mechanical or chemical damage. If the grease wears off, the sling can become rusty, like the one you see here, which is dangerous. If you find a sling in this condition, bring it to the attention of your supervisor. It is Sedco Forex policy that all lifting equipment should be inspected to see if it is safe to use every 6 months. All lifting equipment must be colour-coded. If the colour code on the lifting equipment is different to the colour code applicable to the rig at a particular time, then it should not be used. Lifting equipment must be identified and recorded in the lifting equipment register. Okay, you've got your load, you've got your slings, and now you need to attach the two. Let's take a look at some of the lifting equipment that you can use. A bridle allows you to attach several slings to a load. Here you can see a 4-way bridle. Equipment and containers used on the rig often have lifting eyes or pad eyes attached during manufacture. These must be checked regularly. If they are deformed, corroded, or damaged in any way, notify your supervisor. Lifting eyes must not be fabricated on the rig. Only certified equipment in good condition should be used. Shackles like this one are often used to attach a sling to the load. They consist of a U-shaped shank and a threaded pin. For temporary connections, the pin will be screwed in, and for more permanent connections, the pin will be bolted in. When using a choker hitch arrangement, the pin of the shackle should always be in the eye of the sling. This will stop the running line from unthreading the pin. Just like slings, shackles have a safe working load marked on them. Make sure you use the right shackle for the job. Often you'll be lifting loads that are odd shapes that could damage your slings by causing bends and kinks. To avoid this, a spreader bar should be used to keep the sling legs away from the upper part of the load. It should also be used when lifting light and fragile loads. Some special loads come with their own dedicated spreader bar. Web slings are made from canvas or synthetic fabrics such as Kevlar. As they're softer than wire rope slings, they're used for fragile loads or special tools. They should not be used for lifts of drill pipes or other heavy loads. The web sling will have a safe working load printed on it. If a web sling shows any signs of abrasion, cuts or degradation of the fabric, then it must be cut and discarded straight away. When cargo is brought to the rig on a supply vessel, it will normally be pre-slung with transit slings. Do not use the pre-slung slings unless the load manifest includes a copy of the sling certification. Great care should be taken to verify that the sling capacity is greater than the weight of the load. During offshore lifting operations, the effective load may be increased because of the relative motion of the rig and the supply vessel. For this reason, you should ensure that your slings and shackles are rated to at least double the capacity of the load they are to lift. Do not assume that because you've seen a certificate, the slings will be in good condition. A visual inspection should always be made. Transit slings should not be used for general lifting operations on the rig. They may stay attached to the load whilst it's on the rig. If not, then they should be removed and either returned to the supply vessel or put in a special store to be reused when the load is dispatched from the rig. When a load is being transferred to the rig, roustabouts must use taglines to ensure that the load remains in close control and does not spin or swing. The tagline should be of adequate length to ensure that the roustabouts are well clear of the load when guiding it. The taglines must also be thick enough so that they can be gripped properly. When you are using a tagline, never jerk it, as it may cause the load to shift or spin. Sometimes you may have to use a cargo net, which is, as it sounds, a net you use to lift cargo with. The net is square-shaped and the four corners are brought together to make a bag in which the cargo is placed. A cargo net will only be used when the use of slings is either impractical or impossible. When cargo is delivered by a supply vessel, there's a good chance that sea fastenings will have been used to hold it secure during the voyage. Ensure that the sea fastenings have been removed, or you may find yourself trying to lift the boat as well as the load. This could lead to a catastrophic failure of your lifting gear, or even the crane itself. In this video, it would be impossible to show you every rigging situation you may come across. If you know the correct procedures for selecting lifting equipment, attaching it to the load, and maintaining it, then you won't have any problems. Selection. Correctly size the equipment for the job. Attachment. Ensure that the load is correctly attached. Maintenance. Inspect your equipment regularly and ensure that it has the correct color code. Simple, really. If you are uncertain about something, then I'm sure by now you know what to do. That's right. Ask your supervisor. Okay, it's time to go and start rigging and slinging. For now, goodbye and good luck.